Becoming disciplined can feel like a full-time battle against your thoughts. Now, in the next 30 minutes, I'm going to be teaching you very simply how to take your brain from being your enemy into now being your ally. Hi, if you're new to the channel, my name is Christian. I've been helping young men overcome their bad habits for the past 3 or so years now. Before that, I was able to conquer my own bad habits, such as now being over 1,000 days porn-free. And I make these videos because I enjoy it. Every single thing in your life, whether you're trying to overcome a bad habit or achieve some goals, such as earning more money, getting more successful in the gym, whatever it may be, everything in your life is a mental battle. And the reason that is it comes down to this core framework that if you've seen some of my videos before, you've likely heard of this before. But the core framework is your thoughts control your actions. No, your thoughts control your emotions, which control your actions, which control your outcomes. So, for example, thoughts control emotions or your feelings, the way you feel, which control your actions, which control your outcomes. So very simply, if you're not getting the outcomes you want in life, it's because you're not taking a certain action. So if you're not jacked or whatever, it's because you're not going to the gym, because maybe you feel unmotivated, because maybe you have the thought or belief that I need to be motivated before I can do something. But if you change that thought of, I can be disciplined, which means I can do things even when I don't feel like it, then you will just go to the gym and you'll more likely get jacked. Very simple example there of what I mean by thoughts, emotions, actions, outcomes, which means that everything in your life comes down to your thoughts and the way that you think and the thoughts that pop into your head. And not only the thoughts that pop into your head, but what you think about those thoughts, which is just like a whole nother brain fuck. But right now, your brain can't be trusted, because think about this for a second. Here's the bad news. Your brain has convinced you that porn is necessary for survival and that it is better than going out and finding a real girl. Your brain has convinced you that you are a loser, that you're not good enough, that you're not confident, and all these things. So your brain has convinced you that video games are more worthy of an investment in terms of your time than going to the gym, than being outside, than building deeper connections with people who would take you closer to your goals, and things along these lines. So we can admit that at the moment, our brain is not really our ally. It's more of our enemy, because it has essentially convinced us to do all the things in our life that we're not really proud of. And that's your brain, which are your thoughts, which lead into your emotions. Now, this video is not about emotions, so don't stress. Now, that's the bad news. The bad news is our brain's a bit of an idiot, and we do need to just turn it off sometimes. Like, turn off your brain, stop paying attention to it. And that's the good news. The good news is freedom from our brain comes from really, super simply, not taking our thoughts and our emotions so seriously. And it's really that simple. Freedom from your brain, turning your brain from your enemy to your ally, really comes from not taking it so seriously, because your thoughts, as well as your emotions and as well as your actions, but more importantly, your thoughts are not problems. They are just things. They're just things that exist. And they only become a problem when we see them as problematic and when we tie our sense of identity or who we are so closely to everything we believe or every thought that just pops into our head, because we can't control what really pops into our head most of the time. Most of it's just automatic. Most of the thoughts that pop into our mind are just automatic. But the thing that's not automatic is the way we feel, because what determines the way we feel? What we think about the thoughts that just randomly pop into our head. Your thoughts are just like clothes. You have clothes, but you are not your clothes. So this top that I'm wearing, this polo, I have this polo, but I am not this polo. This polo exists. I own this polo, but I also have a bunch of other tops and clothes in my wardrobe that in the morning, when I walk into my wardrobe, I am presented with all these clothing opportunities in which I can wear, but I am not those clothes. I'm the one who gets to decide which clothes I wear based on how I want to present myself for the day. And that's the exact same for your thoughts and emotions and your actions. You are not your thoughts. You're not your emotions. You're not your actions. You have them. You have thoughts, you have emotions, and you do actions, but you are not them. They are not you. Just like your clothes. You have clothes, but you are not your clothes. And that is true even for all the bad and shameful thoughts that we have, and all the dark ones even. Like, we can admit as guys, or even just as humans, that we have some pretty like fucked up evil thoughts. Really, think about that. You can all admit that you have pretty fucked up thoughts, and that leads to us feeling quite shameful or feeling that we are evil people, or that we don't deserve good things because of the bad things we've done in the past, or even the bad thoughts we have at the moment, even the scary thoughts. And I'm not going to say it because YouTube will censor it, but you can probably know what I'm alluding to here. Those thoughts that really do scare us. This does take practice, but freedom from those thoughts comes first of all by realizing that we are not our thoughts. Even those dark, scary thoughts, even those shameful actions we've done in the past, we can let ourselves or detach ourselves from them, basically create a separation from them, which allows us not to be controlled by them as much. Because the problem right now for you, and this used to be a problem I struggled with too, is that we identify too closely with our thoughts and the way that we feel and the actions we take. We identify so closely to the random thoughts that pop into our head. And you're almost like a blue-haired liberal feminist right now. Like, think about them at the moment. They get so offended by everything that happens in their life because they're attached so closely to who they are or how they feel that the slightest disagreement sends them off. They're offended by everything. You're just like them. Really. Think about this for a moment. You're just like them, where it's not someone else talking to you, but it's your brain talking to yourself. The slightest thought that you don't like that pops into your head, you get triggered, you get offended, and then you feel bad, you feel shameful, and then you go into this self-sabotaging, taking these actions, these self-sabotaging behaviors, which hold you back and back and back. Why? Because you identify, like a blue-haired feminist, too closely to your thoughts and the way that you feel and all of these things. But we need to realize that we are not our thoughts. They're not problems. They're just things that we have. They're only problems if we see them as problematic. But if you just see them as things and you don't even attach an opinion to them, then you now have freedom over them. They're just things. Because right now you're in a constant battle with your thoughts. And the only reason why you see your thoughts as an enemy is because you see them as an enemy. You see it as you're in a constant battle with your thoughts. You're trying to defeat your thoughts. But you can't defeat your thoughts. You're the one who has decided that you want to defeat them. You're the one who has decided that, I should go into battle with my thoughts and that my thoughts are my enemy and all these things. You're the one who has attached that meaning to your thoughts. What will happen if you just let go of your thoughts and realize this thought I'm having right now doesn't really mean anything. It's just a thing that's being presented to me. And at the end of the day, I'm the one who gets to decide whether it's a problem or whether it's just a thing that I don't even have to pay attention to. Because picture it like this, like you're playing tug of war with your brain. And the harder you pull with your brain, because you know this, the harder you pull against your brain, the harder it's going to pull back. And now you're in this constant back and forth battle between your brain. But what will happen if you just let go? If you just let go of the rope, then you wouldn't be in a battle anymore. You wouldn't lose the battle, but you wouldn't win the battle. Why? Because there is no battle. You're stepping away from the battle with your brain because you don't have to fight your brain anymore. So let go of the rope. Let go of the rope by understanding that you are not your thoughts. You have them, but you are not them. Now, this can seem easier said than done, and this can seem a little bit esoteric, but I'll explain it in a way that's very simple so that you understand this very easily and it makes complete sense to you. So from here on, start seeing your thoughts as this childish version of you. So think about this for a second. Let's say you were doing something. For example, let's say you were cooking. You're cooking a nice steak, for example, and a child came up to you. Let's say maybe it was your younger brother or your younger cousin, or maybe even your father at the moment. It's just your child or something. Just a child has came up to you and you're cooking a steak. And the child offers a suggestion and says, hey, I think you should put some lollies in the pan with that steak because it will taste really cool. Are you going to go off at that child and be like, you stupid idiot, why are you saying that? Fuck off. I don't want to hear from you anymore. Can you stop speaking, little child? No. What are you going to do? This 5-year-old's come up and says, hey, I have a cool idea. Let's put lollies in this pan with this steak. You're probably going to laugh. You'll be like, oh, that's a great idea. Thank you, Jonathan, for that idea. But you're probably not actually going to do that. You're going to say, thank you, Jonathan. Maybe one day we can do that, but not today. I don't think it goes really well with the steak, Jonathan. but you're going to be really chill about it. You're not really going to care. Why? Because it's a child. It doesn't know any better. And you need to start seeing your thoughts. And you need to start seeing your thoughts as this child. Your brain is basically like a child. As we said, we know it's a child because it's convinced you to do all these bad things that you're trying to stop doing. We need to see your thoughts as a child who's just offering us suggestions. It's just suggesting us to do this. Hey, you should go watch porn right now. Hey, it would be more fun if you played video games than rather doing work. Hey, you should do this rather than that. Hey, here's someone who betrayed you in the past and you should try and destroy their life. Your brain is just offering you these suggestions like a little child. And stop taking it so seriously. Just giggle and basically have the mentality of cool story needs more dragons. That's how you should treat your brain. It's not serious. It's just a thing that offers suggestions. And at the end of the day, you're the adult who gets to decide which of those suggestions you go for. Do you listen to the child who's telling you to put candy in your steak? Probably not. Probably not. But you are in control at the end of the day. And that control, first of all, comes from understanding that you know your thoughts. Because the thing is, does that child who's telling you to put candy in your steak or lollies in your steak, does that child have bad intentions? Absolutely not. That child does not have bad intentions. If anything, that child's trying to help you. That child's thinking, oh, here's a steak. How can I make this steak more delicious for Christian or for you who's listening to this? That's what this child is going to do. So this child, even though the thing it's suggesting is probably stupid or even like with your brain is probably evil or not who you would be or not something you would do, your brain and this child has good intentions. It is trying to help. So would you tell someone to shut up, or would you try and cut someone down who is trying to help? Or would you just give them the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, I don't agree with this idea, but I can understand that this child is trying to help. And it's just the innocence of the child trying to help, but they just don't have enough knowledge to know what the actual solution could be, or to realize that steak is good on its own, doesn't need candy. Because whenever you have some of these suggestions, such as your brain offering you in the middle of the night and go watch porn, you can just see it as this is my brain's current best, or this is the childish version of my brain. So you can even see your brain as like different versions of yourself. So this is like the 16 or the 15-year-old version of my brain. So 15-year-old Christian, this is 15-year-old Christian's best current solution to what I do at 3 a.m. when I can't sleep. This is just Christian's best current solution. Now, I can just say, thank you, Christian, for that suggestion, because I understand you're just trying to help me. You're trying to help, remove whatever ouchie is in my brain, the stress that's maybe keeping me up or whatever. And you're just trying to provide a solution to that. So thank you, but I'm not going to do it. And that's all you have to do with your thoughts. Your thoughts are not evil. Your thoughts are not... Even think about the darkest thoughts you have. Right now, think about the darkest thought you could ever have. And there's one that's coming to mind that, again, I'm not going to say because YouTube will flag it, but even that is coming from your brain's idea of a good intention for you, or your brain thinks it's a good intention, but we understand that it's not the right thing to do. There are much better solutions to do than that. So instead of identifying so closely with it or so closely with your thoughts, you can just say, thank you, brain, for this suggestion. I understand you're trying to help me, trying to relieve some pain, but we're not going to do it. I know there are better solutions out there, but thank you, first of all. So at the end of the day, no matter what your brain is telling you, sometimes we just need to turn our brain off, or turn off the battle between our brain. Stop fighting it. Just say thank you and then move on. Thank you and then move on. And this all comes down to basically the principle that I'm teaching you here is observe without participating. So what do I mean by that? So you can observe your thoughts. So thoughts pop into your head of go do this, go do that, think this, think that, this person sucks, you suck, whatever it might be. Observe that thought rather than participating in it. Same with your emotions. Observe that emotion of, I am feeling angry right now, or I am feeling upset right now. You can observe that thought or emotion, which is basically just identifying that, hey, this exists, it's here. But then you're the one who decides whether you participate in it, whether you say, okay, I am angry, now I should go and punch everyone, or now I should go and whatever, go and burn the house down. You're the one who decides to participate in it. But you can just stop at observing. I have this thought, I will see this thought, and that's it. And then maybe you do decide to participate in a thought because it's a good thought, it's a useful thought. But for all the unuseful thoughts, you can just observe without participating. Observe without participating. So it's like watching a movie. Think about this. You're watching a movie. When you watch a movie, you're watching a movie, but you're not participating in the movie. You're just observing the movie. Now, some movies are really good that you might want to go and participate in them. That's a really weird example, but there you go. So view your brain, view your thoughts as a movie that you're just observing. And then maybe there are some really good scenes that you're like, oh, I want to go and participate in that. That's a good idea. Let's go and do that. Let's go and think about that. So your brain, its job is basically, it's just offering you suggestions. All the time it's offering you suggestions. Hey, here's what I think. Hey, here's something that I'm feeling. Hey, here's this, here's that, here's that. At the end of the day, you are the one in control who is observing all of these suggestions. It's just a child, or it's just your assistant coming up to you sitting at the desk saying, here's what I think. Here's this, here's that. Based on everything that has happened in our past, this is what your brain is doing. Based on everything we've experienced in our past, here's what I think we should do about this and that and that and that. And here's how I feel. And here's all this stuff. But you're the one sitting in the chair who says, thank you for presenting me all of this data and information. I will do what I want with it. I'm the one who, at the end of the day, has the final say of what we do. Do we go with these suggestions, or do we go with something else that you know is probably better based on your beliefs or your values, who you're trying to be, this future version of yourself you're trying to be? Because your brain is presenting to you the best possible answers it has based on all your experiences, which are these past versions of you, which is why most of the things your brain presents you with are things you, right now, looking back at them, would not do, or you'd feel ashamed to do, and they're just not you. Why? Because it's not you yet. You know who you want to become. So most of the time, you do just have to ignore your brain, turn brain off, and realize, okay, yes, my brain is presenting to me all these suggestions, not because it's evil, but because that's the best that it knows. It is doing and presenting to me the best with what it knows. But you being the person in control, you do know better. Why? Because you're likely someone who's on self-improvement, who's learning all these new beliefs, these new mindsets, these new ways of living. And also, you have this future version of you who you're trying to become. So when your brain offers you these suggestions, understand that these suggestions are a past version of you. And you just need to think, okay, these are some suggestions. Maybe some of them are good. Maybe some of them are completely horrible. First of all, thank you, younger Christian. You can go away now. Now, what would future me do? And then you can even visualize future you coming up to the board and presenting suggestions. And then at the end of the day, you're the one in charge because you've now observed. Now you get to decide which solution you participate in, or whether you just leave it. You don't even participate. You just say, this thing that's being presented to me is irrelevant. It doesn't even matter. Because sometimes your brain is a problem solver. That's what your brain does, which is why it just presents you solutions all the time. But some things just aren't problems. Some things just aren't things you need to solve, such as the random drama that a YouTube influencer is happening right now. You don't need to solve that. You don't need to think about that. Your brain can offer it to you and say, hey, look, here's a problem. Let's see what opinion we should have about it, or what thing we need to solve about it. And you can just say, thank you. Not going to participate in that. It's not relevant to me. But thank you, first of all, for suggesting. So the last thing I'm going to touch on is, we know that our thoughts, and we are not our thoughts, we are not our emotions, and we understand that. And finally is, we're also not our actions. We're nothing in this cycle, really. We have these things, we have thoughts, emotions, actions, and we also have outcomes, but we're not these things. And what do I actually mean by that? That means that our value or our sense of worth, our sense of value does not come from these things. So when you believe that you are your thoughts, which basically means that you believe that your sense of value or your sense of self-worth, which is how good you feel about yourself, comes from what you do or what you feel or how you feel or what you think, those thoughts that pop into your head, then that's when things can become problematic, because you're going to feel like a piece of shit all the time because thoughts pop up all the time that we don't like. Your actions, although they are important, although the things you do add to your quality of life and maybe the things you obtain in this world, maybe of course, the income you have and the physique you have and the relationships you have, which all stem from your thoughts, by the way. But these things, your actions, although they are important, I'm not saying your actions aren't important, but at the end of the day, what I'm saying is your actions are somewhat meaningless. And here's what I mean by that. Nothing you can ever do, or nothing that you don't do, or nothing that you have done, or nothing that you can ever do in the future can either add to or decrease your value. No action that you can ever take can either make you more valuable or less valuable. Now, how did you feel when I said that? You probably felt a bit like, hang on, what does that mean? But there was probably a part of you that felt a bit of relief. Why? Well, what is what I just said? That my value isn't derived from my actions, really. That nothing I do can either add or decrease my value. What's that? That's a belief, which is a thought, which can make you feel peace, which can actually increase the amount of actions you take, the better actions you take. Because here's the thing. What would happen if you started acting out of peace? Or to put that better, what started happening if you stopped acting out of stress or out of a low self-worth or out of scarcity? So this is why it's important to understand that nothing you can ever do can either increase or decrease your value. And as Christians, if you're a Christian watching this, or even if you're not a Christian, nothing you can ever do can either increase or decrease the love God has for you, and therefore the love you should have for yourself, and the value you should see yourself. God sees everyone as equally valuable, and also as equally evil, because we're all sinners. And sin basically just means going against what God sees as good. It doesn't mean you're the evilest person in the world, but just means that God says do this, but you do that. That's all sin means. And everyone has not listened to God. Even if you feel fear, that's, God doesn't feel fear. So if you feel fear, then you've sinned. So you don't have to stress about that, because here's the thing. Our value isn't derived from our actions, which means no one is better or worse than anyone else in terms of value. Now, maybe we're better and worse in terms of a certain area of life, such as some people are better at running than others, or some people better at relationships than others, and some people better at this and that than others, which means you can, but the good news is you can always improve at things, because you have a brain that's neuroplastic, which can learn new things, which means you can improve and grow. But when it comes to your value, your sense of worth, nothing you either do or don't do can either increase or decrease your value. So none of the good things you do, maybe you're a very generous person, maybe you've been very disciplined, none of these things increase your value, increase your worth. And all the bad things you do, all the things you're ashamed of, all the shameful things you've done in the past, none of these things decrease your value, which means that you should value and love yourself, which just means you don't sabotage yourself regardless of what you've done, both the good and the bad. Because here's the thing, when you identify so closely with your actions, you run the risk of becoming both or either shameful or prideful, which are both two sides of the exact same coin. So pretend this is a coin, this is a marker for my whiteboard, but this marker is ego. This marker is ego. And on this side of the marker is shame, and this side of the marker is pride. Actually, let's make the black. The black is shame, The blue is pride. Because when you're attached so closely to what you do, you get your sense of value from what you do, then whenever you do something good, you feel prideful. You feel better than everyone else. You have what is known as self-righteousness. You see yourself as better than everyone else. But what happens when you fuck up? What happens when you have even the slightest terrible thought? Even one thought that's slightly not who you want to be? What do you feel? You feel shameful. And this emotion here, shame, is the emotion that leads into depression. Shame is the emotion that leads into depression. Because here's the thing, you're just as righteous, but you're also just as evil as everyone else. But when you attach your sense of value so closely to your emotions, that's why that month is called Pride Month. Because those people, their sense of value is so attached to what they do, how they feel, that they feel so much pride, but they also feel so much shame. But that's also you. We are the exact same, really, in terms of this principle as them, as these Pride Month rainbow people. Because we think we're better than everyone else because of what we do. Now, there's a certain degree of truth to that, where you are better at discipline than someone who doesn't wake up on time. That is true. But in terms of your value, in terms of the value on your life, the person you are, the way essentially that God sees you, you're just as valuable as even the most evil person on earth. Because when we remove our sense of value and our sense of worth from our actions, here's what happens. The pressure is released. We can relax. And we're no longer acting out of fear. We're no longer acting in order to prove ourselves to the world, to everyone else around us, to get approval. We're now acting in a more relaxed state, in a more peaceful state, because we don't have to prove ourselves anymore. You understand that you are equally valued, and this is what you could call you're now secure in yourself. You probably hear these people online say, hey, you're insecure. These people are insecure. Who cares what they say? If you see yourself if you detach your value from your thoughts, emotions, actions, and outcomes, that means you're okay with yourself. Because you're okay with your failures, and you're also okay with your successes, because you realize they don't define you. And now what happens is your failures and the things that used to bring you shame, they can now make you. They can now build you. You can now turn them into lessons, because you're no longer afraid to look at them, because they don't bring you shame. And the good things don't bring you pride as well, which means you no longer become complacent, because you no longer think you're just better than everyone else. So the point of this video is basically to tell you to relax, to tell you to take the pressure off, and really that you are not your thoughts, you're not your emotions, and you're not your actions. You have them, but you are not them. Just like your clothes. Your value doesn't come from what you wear. Your value doesn't come from the clothes you have. It comes from who you are, because you have clothes, you have thoughts, you have emotions, you have actions, but you are not them. So you don't have to stress. And then, as I said before, when you don't stress, when you are no longer trying to prove yourself, you no longer do things because you want to get someone's approval. You no longer do things because someone said you should do it, because you're trying to prove yourself. You can now relax and do the things that you know deep down you are supposed to do, to say the things you know deep down you are supposed to say, and to more or less step into the person you know you're supposed to be, because you're no longer trying to prove yourself, because you understand that me as I am, although I'm not where I want to be, which is very important, although you're not where you want to be, although you haven't achieved the outcomes you want in life yet, because you will always have goals, and there will always be a desire to improve, of course. But although you're not there, you can understand that I am valuable already. I am okay with myself already. I might not be okay with my outcomes, but that's okay, because I'm not my outcomes. I might not be okay with my thoughts, but that's okay, because I'm not my thoughts. And therefore, I can find peace with them, which then will help you to actually deal with them better. So thank you for watching this video. And just remember, you are not your thoughts. I'll see you next time.